Okay, there was a guest for a fireplace, but that's what's happening over here. So my friend Jenna, I should have recorded while she was here and chatted and whatnot, but I've been talking about this fireplace for a while now. I was telling her yesterday at church that I think I'm gonna get started on the fireplace pretty soon, and she is so sweet. She's just like, can I come help? And I was like, sure, like I'm not doing anything yet, but I picked up tape at Lowe's because I was all out from doing the island, and we got it all mapped out. So don't worry, the TV is not centered on the wall. The fireplace is centered. So when I build out the fireplace, the TV will be centered on that. We actually saw other model homes of this style with a floor-to-ceiling fireplace, and I was like, I think I can build that. So the fireplace situation, when we were talking to our realtor, like we kind of threw the idea of a fireplace off of him when we did our final walkthrough through the house, and he was like, you know, like a gas fireplace is going to get you your money back, and it's going to be a really big selling feature. So keeping that in mind, when we had a gas line ran to our stove to do a gas stove, we asked the guy, like, hey, would it be that difficult to get a gas line run to this wall for a fireplace? And he was like, well, it kind of depends. Like, is your gas meter on this side of the house or is it on that side of the house? Because that will be your determining factor. Well, it's on that side of the house. It's like 5 or 6 feet away from where we want to put the fireplace. Perfect, right? Like, it would be fairly simple, fairly inexpensive to run a gas line to the fireplace. Then we started to look at gas fireplace inserts. So there is the ventless fireplace insert, which I didn't even know was a thing. And then there's the vented fireplace. The vented fireplace is what my parents had put in, and I know it was a very extensive project and something that would be like way outside of my expertise. That's when I started looking more into the ventless fireplace route, because like I feel like I could do that. It wouldn't be that hard, but there are very, very 50-50 reviews. Like, it's really split down the middle whether ventless fireplaces are safe or not, because there's no way of venting anything out. It can cause people headaches because of the smell, or it can just be like, it kind of just increases like safety, and that just kind of freaks me out a little bit. We really didn't want to mess with anything that could potentially put our family in harm's way or harm guests that come over because of the smell or anything like that. So we went back to looking at the vented, but here's the thing. We have a really large TV, right? And so in order for the fireplace not to look funky, it needs to be about the same size as the TV. The TV is 66 inches long. Do you know how expensive a vented fireplace is? That is 66 inches. It's like $5,000. So that's a no. So after all that research and all that time spent, we are getting an electric fireplace. You show me your tongue? You little lizard. She's a freakishly long tongue. Like, I don't get it. But we're getting an electric fireplace. I don't want to get any messages about gas is cheaper to run or electric is, it's not going to put out the same heat. It's not going to look like, I don't really care. I have spent hours and hours of my life researching this. That's what we're doing. It is going to be so awesome. It's going to be such a challenge because I've never done anything like this before. So I'm pretty pumped. And the different like design aspects of it, everything is going to be new. And we're just going to learn together. Okay. That's just what we're going to do. Can you say hi? You say bye-bye. Bye-bye. He's so cute. Here is the thought process of the fireplace. So we're gonna work on this top part first because I'm gonna be building out the fireplace part like a foot. And the top is going to be closer to the wall. Not flush, but it's not gonna be bumped out nearly as much. I'll share with you guys on the next slide some inspiration photos. I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, but you know, I'm kind of taking pieces from each one to build what I want. So the top is going to be vertical shiplap. I know typically you see horizontal on fireplaces, but y'all know how I stand there. Then there's going to be a mantle, and then the bottom part is going to be like a cement look, a stone look, maybe like a Roman clay. I'm not really totally sure yet on this part, but I do know that we're going to do vertical shiplap. So that's what we're going to be picking up the materials for today. The plan is we're going to be picking up some 2x4s to basically build a frame for the shiplap to connect to. And here is kind of the tricky part with vertical shiplap versus horizontal shiplap in this scenario. So when you have like a stud wall, essentially, if you're doing your boards this way, you are always able to hit a stud, right? But since I'm running the shiplap vertically, I have to run all these like random supports between each stud for the vertical shiplap to nail into. Because this is such a large scale project, we're gonna be going with actual legit shiplap. And for some reason, I thought that shiplap came in 8-foot, 10-foot, and 12-foot sheets. Boards. It does not. It's only 8 and 12 and 16. So the top of the fireplace from the ceiling to the mantle is 10 feet. I don't know what her deal is today. We are gonna have to get 12-foot shiplap boards. Because we are having to get these 12-foot boards, I get to drive the truck with the trailer, and Shane gets to drive with the kids. So you can get shiplap in 7 1/4 inch or 5 1/2 inch. And we decided to go with the 5 1/2 inch because the shiplap on the island is 6 inches. So then it'll be like pretty similar size wise. And then the 7 1/2 inch like looked awesome, but it would require so few pieces that I feel like it would look weird. So this way it's like not gonna be super busy, but it's also not gonna be like boring either. I don't know, but that's what we're gonna go do right now. Okay, just a disclaimer, I am going to go super in depth and explain each step that I'm doing, mainly because I don't usually see people do that. I see a lot of DIYers that like show you what they're doing, but they don't like really explain what they're doing. And so I'm hoping maybe if somebody wanted to do something like this in their home, if I can show them exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and all these different things, that they can take the same type of thing and apply it in their space. I'm going to be bringing in some of the wood so I can start laying out what I'm going to be doing when I build. Basically, I'm going to be building like a stud wall to hang up here. And I'm very terrified because I've literally, well, it's something I've never done before. And it's kind of frightening trying to like hang it on the wall. And I'm going to have to build it in here because of just the sheer size of it. So we're going to bring some wood in and kind of lay it out. I don't know when we're going to be taking down the TV, but I think I need to get the wall built first. So because the top part of this fireplace is going to be 10 feet tall, I was able to pick up 2x4s that are in 10-foot length. So then it requires a lot less cutting on my part. But this is what you want to do to make sure that you have straight boards. You want to look down the end of them. This is like checking for any warping or anything at all that is not making it like perfectly straight. And this one is pretty dang perfect. I picked up 11 boards of the 2x4s. And I probably overestimated, but I'm going to need 2x4s when I build the fireplace as well. So I'm not really that worried about it. I'm going to bring 2 of these in. Then I have to measure the width because, you know, the 2x4s obviously on the sides will subtract 3 inches total from the middle ones. And then I actually don't have long enough screws, which is fine because I'm going to be going back to Menards later today. So I'm going to be picking up screws so that I can hopefully get this started at least. And yes, I did do that whole like looking down the board for every single piece that I picked up. Wood is not cheap and there's no way I'm going to be wasting money on like warped boards. Most of these boards are going to be cut up into like the support pieces. So if there was like very slight warpness, I'm not that concerned about it. So now I'm just finding the perfect ones for the studs themselves. So here's what I'm doing. Each board that I got is 10 feet long. So what I will be doing is, like my new little tripod, the boards that will be going on the top and the bottom will be attached on the side here, not on the top. Because if I attach them to the top, it would extend the full length of the board by 3 inches total, which would make it 10 feet and 3 inches. So I want this 10 feet, no more, no less. So my boards are going to be going on the insides of the edges. So when I was measuring from side to side, I was measuring from the outside of this board to the outside of that board, which is 80 inches. And then I'm going to measure for cutting purposes the next piece, the inside of this board to the inside of that one. So because of that, I need 2 boards right there on the top and bottom, but I am also running studs. I believe it's going to be 3 studs this way, but those studs are not going to be 10 feet. They are going to be 3 inches less than 10 feet because they're going to be shorter than these ones because they'll be inside the 2 boards that I will be attaching there. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Studs are generally 16 inches apart, so that is going to be like my guide for spacing the studs. Okay, so you see how my studs are at 80 inches from outside to outside. And this board is only 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be taking 80 minus 3, 1.5 inches plus 1.5 inches is 3 inches. So I'm going to be cutting each board for the top and bottom at 77 inches. Something that I wanted to show you guys, which I thought was pretty cool, is, so we all know these like the foot markers, right? But these red ones are 16 inches. So, kind of like a quick way to see where your studs need to be. So it looks like I'm going to need 4 studs in here. I had a thought while I was cutting those boards. what if, I'm gonna look up and see if I can do this, although I don't know why I couldn't. What if I ran my studs horizontally instead of vertically? Because, you know, then I would have boards every 16 inches or so to nail the shiplap into. And then I would still have to put like supports, you know, because you can't have 77 inches of just a 2x4. Like, that's not gonna hold hardly anything. But I feel like this could be a good plan, because I'm cutting 77 inches off each 10-foot board. So that's giving me quite a bit for the support pieces. Guys, we have a problem. So this is laying out here, and I was like, man, this seems ginormous compared to that rectangle that's up there. And that seems much more like a rectangle, and this seems more like a square. And I held this 10-foot board up here, pushed it all the way to the ceiling. And it goes right about here. It's supposed to go right here. These must not be 14-foot ceilings. They must be like 12 or 13. This could be good and it could be bad. I'm gonna measure the ceiling. See what we're dealing with. Can you hold that down there, buddy? Got it? Yeah. 12 and a half. Are you for real? Are you for real?
Yeah, I'm 4.
You're for real?
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm just 4. It could be there.
All right.
There. There.
This means
Oh.
two things.
We're just gonna run around.
All the materials that I got are all too big, which means they all have to be returned. But that means I can get shorter pieces, which will be cheaper. But what a pain. Oh, Shane is just gonna, he's gonna have a heyday. He's gonna have a heyday when he hears this. Obviously, stop. I cannot return the boards that I've cut, which is only 2. That's not even that bad. I might just keep the 2x4s because they are really nice. I feel like 8-foot ones aren't very nice. So I'm gonna have to return all the shiplap and all the side pieces that I got for 8-foot. Literally, this is why I am really bad when it comes to like perceiving lengths of things, like super bad. So when our house listing said 14-foot ceilings, you know, that's it. I don't know. Clearly they're not. I kept the 12-foot
Bear says
boards and I kept it so then the mantle was at 4 feet. I would be wasting like 4 feet of shiplap. Whereas if I return the 12-foot and get 8-foot and then bump the mantle up 6 inches, so then the fireplace mantle part is 4.5 inches. Oh my gosh. I literally can't like hear myself think when they are doing that. Return the 12-foot boards, get 8-foot, bump all my measurements up to accommodate 8 feet up here, because then I won't have any waste for the shiplap, mainly because shiplap is freaking expensive. So I think that's what we're going to do.
Say cougar, bear.
What a pain though. I was going to start cutting all the shiplap to 10 feet today because it's so nice outside, and I was going to have like the kids play while I cut boards. So glad I didn't do that. I would have had so much waste. I did find a replacement for the MDF shiplap that I'd gotten in the 12 foot. They were completely out of the 8 foot. Actually, I'm pretty sure that there's a pallet somewhere in Menards that they just couldn't track down for me at 8:30 at night because they close at 9. So this is what I ended up going with, and I think it's actually going to work out much better. So the thing with MDF is that it is actually sawdust glued and pressed together into boards. So it's super, super heavy. It's very, very dense. And I used it when I built the entertainment center, and I really liked it. However, one of my plants, like, I overwatered it and it leaked out the tray, got water on the MDF. The MDF is painted, but it still got underneath it and it made it like bevel, which I'm not a fan of. So when I found this replacement, I was really excited. While I was standing there with this guy trying to figure out where these MDF boards are, I saw these guys. And this is actually beadboard, tongue and groove, and it's actual wood. Like, it's legit wood versus the MDF, which is the sawdust. This is also a heck of a lot lighter. And so it's going to make hanging it so much easier, especially I'm more than likely going to be hanging this all by myself. I got 16 of these, and that should wrap the fireplace. And these were a little bit more than what the 8-foot MDF boards would have been, but not by a whole lot. These were $50 cheaper than the 12-foot boards that I returned.
Well, Mom, you're really strong.
Okay, here's what I'm doing with each corner. I am putting 2 pilot holes with the drill bit and then screwing in these 2 and some odd inch star bit screws. And I'm making sure that this is square. Here's my little speed square. Obviously it does not need to be perfect, but as close as I can get it. It's great. This wall, I don't know what else to call it. It's a wall. We are gonna try and hang it today. When, like, tonight before Shane goes to work. I'm gonna kind of explain to you what I'm gonna be doing. The slight issue, not really an issue, it just makes it a little bit more complicated. The fact that I ran my studs horizontally instead of vertically is I have to now be strategic with how I place the braces. So then I make sure I hit studs up on this wall. So all of my main braces that are basically keeping these 2x4s, they're strong, you know, that will hold up, are like this. Okay. But I do not want to screw through this into a stud. I would need like 6-inch screws, and that is just insane. Ideally, the boards would be like this, and then I can screw in. I would only have 1.5 inches of board versus 3.5 inches. The 3/4 of an inch of drywall, and then the stud itself, which I think is probably 2x6s because that's an exterior wall. I am going to be adding a few different braces throughout the wall that lay like this, specifically for attaching 2 studs on this wall. The reason that it makes it a little bit more complicated is I need to figure out where my studs are on here, measure it out, and then transfer those measurements onto this board, the wall. If my studs had been going vertically, I could probably just place 2 or 3 of those boards flat within each stud, and I would more than likely hit one of the exterior studs, just like on pure probability, because of length and distance and all those different things. I am really hoping that that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'm hoping I can just show you when I'm doing this process. My thought is this wall, the way that it's laying, is just going to go up on the wall. The tape is the same width as this. So I'm gonna find where the studs are and then mark it on this bottom board. And then it should be the same all the way up the wall. And then going off that, I will be able to place the braces so that I make sure I'm out of the way for the flat ones that are going to be specifically for the studs. Okay. I really hope this makes sense. Since I'm finding studs, I'm going to show you how you can find studs. There's a bunch of different kinds of stud finders out there. There's like the old school ones with like the big magnet. There's a strong magnet that you glide over, and when it moves, you've like hit a stud nail, stud screw, whatever you want to call it, drywall screw. This is the kind I have. These are relatively cheap, I think, as well. I would love to get one that's a little bit more high tech, and like you glide across and it shows you exactly what's behind the drywall, because it can be a little nerve-wracking knowing that like I'm screwing into this. I would like to know what is behind it and make sure like I'm actually hitting a stud, because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing as to why it's lighting up and like showing it's a stud in one spot, but you go directly below it and it says that there is nothing there. Another thing that a high-tech stud finder would show you is water pipes, gas lines, those kinds of things. That's what we kind of ran into that issue in the pantry when my dad was running the wire along. We almost hit we almost hit a water line, and we almost hit the like shower drain deal, because our bathroom is like right there, and it didn't like show up on the stud finder. So that's just why I like the more high-tech ones. It's like on my list of like things I would like to get. Anyway, this wall should have nothing on it except studs. That's something to keep in mind when you are going to like screw something into studs are there water lines anywhere? We do have an exterior water hose that is right down there, but it is low enough that it is like going out of like the basement wall versus this one. So there should not be anything here. Another indication of where you can like get an idea of where studs are is outlets. Outlets are always connected to a stud unless they're put in after walls are up. But 98% of the time, there is going to be a stud either on this side or this side of an outlet. So let me show you how this one works. So it's got a button here on the side that you hold and glide over. And once you hit a stud, it will light up that is the edge of the stud. So mark right there, like what I did there. I did like a little V. And then you want to go to this side and do the same thing until you hit the other side of the stud, mark it, and then that is where your stud is running. So I have started to screw in the top braces because once this thing is up on the wall, I'll be using 3-inch screws to screw the top board into the ceiling. And so I obviously won't have it screwed into the ceiling. I won't be able to attach these braces. So I'm doing that right now while it's on the floor. I'm using these 2 some odd star bit. Always use a star bit. If you have Phillips heads, throw them away. They're garbage. Star head is where it's at. Well, I am not drilling pilot holes this time because I just have no more patience for it. So I'm literally taking the screw, and this is kind of hard to do left-handed, pushing it in and turning it just so it like kind of catches a little bit like that. And then slow getting started because you want to make sure it grips. And then I'm like using my weight as clamps and holding everything in place and just letting it rip. The main thing I am wanting is making sure that screw is under the surface of the wood, because this is going to be up against the ceiling and I don't want it, I want it to be as flush as possible. It doesn't really matter down here, but I just like when they're just right below the surface. Here is what I'm doing. I have my studs marked. They're all marked along here. There is actually another one right there, but I can't find my stud finder, so I'll find that one later. But this first one, so I measured from this line, is where the fireplace is going. Okay, to the stud. The stud is right at that 14.5. So because I know that the stud is at 14.5, I marked this 14.5 right up here, 14.5. Measured this opening, cut a piece of wood, and now I'm going to lay it flat like this and screw it in top and bottom. And then this, I will be able to screw through and hit the stud to mount it onto the wall. But the next thing with this fireplace is doing the shiplap. But, so I ordered black Roman clay, and I think it's going to deliver today. But I can't put the shiplap up until I get the paint, and I want the paint to match the Roman clay that I got. So if that delivers today, I should be able to get some of it on, I don't know, a piece of wood or something. Take it into Lowe's and get it color matched, because I want the colors to be the same. Like, no blacks. Blacks are all different. Whites are all different. Like, that's just how it is. So, hoping maybe I'd be able to start putting shiplap up tomorrow. I am going to do my best to make the corners mitered edges so that I don't need to do any like corner trim work or anything, which requires me to take some of the wood out to my dad's to cut on the table saw. So I think what I'm gonna do once Shane gets back from dropping Tyler off, we're gonna bring in all the shiplap and kind of like line it up to see how many I'm gonna have on the sides, and then making sure that's centered and all those different wonderful things. And all right, so now my whole deal is I have to get the Roman clay on something so I can take it into Lowe's and get it color matched for the paint. But what do I put it on? I think I'm going to have like some pieces of wood that I'm going to put some primer on. I think I'll just wipe on some like paint primer. Not wipe on, paint on. And then I'll put the Roman clay over that because I want it to be like as true to the color as possible, and like it's going to be going on primed drywall, not raw wood. Found the primer. Okay. You like your little basket?
Yeah, but it's so ceramic. But it kind of looks like a stroller, but
It's like a suitcase. It's like a suitcase.
Yeah, but look at this.
Before I can get any shiplap up, I am going to be putting some extra reinforcements right up here for the TV to screw into, so then that will be solid. I am going to probably build it out a little bit because I'm thinking of like the people who will own this house after us. They won't necessarily know where the studs are. So I want to like make that big chunk right there solid for any TV to be mounted on here, ours and anybody else's in the future. This is me not following my own advice. As I was laying out the shiplap, 4 of the boards are warped. I feel so stupid because the guy that I was chatting with at Menards, he'd said it's like 4 of the boards are warped. And the guy warned me that before. He was like, you know, you might want to kind of go through them. And it's like, I was looking for like breaks and cracks and those kinds of things. I wasn't really looking at any warpness. because everything looked fairly straight. But let me show you. But if you see, this line is how wide it's supposed to be. And then it gets like really fat in there. And then it gets skinny again. So like this board is warped. Actually, I think all these 4 are warped. And I think they're warped the same direction because they actually look really nice all put together. But I'm short 1 board, so I think I'm going to get 2 more just to be safe. For what I'm going to be configuring for the wiring for the TV, I want to make sure like I have enough that kind of overhangs so then I can miter the corners so those look clean and seamless. Morning. So I've come to the conclusion with this shiplap that I'm just going to keep what I have, get the 2 pieces that I need, the 2 extras, and then I actually need 2 more for the sides, but I'm just going to be getting 8-inch ones because I'm going to be cutting them down to fit. And I need them to be a little bit bigger. So instead of going through the hassle of loading these up, taking them into the store with the 2 kids, I'm just going to go in and get the 4 pieces that I need. One of my friends who actually deals with this shiplap all the time, she says like a bunch of the boards that they usually get are almost always warped. And what they do is they just like nail them in at the top and then like push them to straighten them out. Like it's wood, so it's got a little bit of a bend to it. So I think that's just what I'm gonna do. All right, Brooke is down for her nap. I'm gonna start putting some shiplap up. And I'm kind of scared because I do not have a vertical laser level. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna mark it, and you know, if it's a little bit off, it's okay. Nobody's gonna notice but me. It'll be fine. The tricky thing is I have to get this first board on perfectly straight because that is the board that is going to be the one that I'm going to be pushing all the other ones up against. So if it's not straight, it might look a little silly. All right, I've got 3 boards up, but I stopped because I want to be able to put this thing in for the TV with my right hand versus my left hand because I'm right hand dominant. So here is what we're going to be doing. Because I'm constantly always thinking, yeah, this could work for us, but how's it going to work for the next people who own this house? And everybody wants a TV that's on the wall where you don't see the cords. That's where this is going to come in. So I have this little hole saw thing that connects to my drill where I'm going to cut a hole into, sorry, I should have been over here, this 2x4 and this 2x4. So then I can run that pipe and this guy, pop it like that, okay? Gonna run through here, pop out here. This is where all the power for the TV is going to be. So it's gonna be just like a little tunnel. So you can stick the TV cord down it and you can have a hidden TV cord. So I wanted to make sure that I had some of the shiplap up first. Okay, so I'm borrowing this set from my dad, and what I did was I took this into Menards and I lined it up with a pipe. It's slightly bigger, so then there's like a little bit of wiggle room, but it's got a drill bit in here. So then it drills into the wood, so then you're secure, because once this saw starts going into the wood, it can kind of get crazy. So the drill bit is there to help stabilize everything. So I have hold on. I wanted to make sure that this was going to hit in the middle of a shiplap piece, because if I hit it like this, I'd have to go through 2 pieces of shiplap on the seams, and that would just, I know it's behind a TV, but it's just a huge pain in the rear end. So I am going to put this up here to the edge. Okay, I'm gonna draw a circle on this to where I need to drill through, and then do the same thing down here so that it goes straight down. And then I will take my piece of shiplap, put it up there. You know what, I'm actually probably gonna put like a little bit of paint on this. Put this up here, take my piece of shiplap, put it up, so then the paint will imprint on the shiplap where I need the hole to go. I wanted to make sure that this was going to hit in the middle of a shiplap piece, because if I hit it like this, I'd have to go through 2 pieces of shiplap on the seams, and that would just, I know it's behind a TV, but it's just a huge pain in the rear end. So I am going to put this up here to the edge. Okay, I'm gonna draw a circle on this to where I need to drill through, and then do the same thing down here so that it goes straight down. And then I will take my piece of shiplap, put it up there. You know what, I'm actually probably gonna put like a little bit of paint on this. Put this up here, take my piece of shiplap, put it up, so then the paint will imprint on the shiplap where I need the hole to go. So let's just pray that this works. I think it's gonna work. In my head, it's gonna work. The biggest challenge is gonna be making sure that this hole and this hole are fairly right on top of each other, so then the pipe runs straight down. Once again, I'm not really thinking very well. What I should have done was drilled my hole in the bottom first, so then I could poke this up through, draw the hole in the second one, and then they'd be lined up. But that literally took me 17 minutes to drill one hole, and I thought I was gonna break my wrist. So I don't know if I like hit a knot in it. I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna try and line up the bottom hole. I gotta do that. I hear Brooke waking up, of course. This is just taking me way longer than I thought it would. But I want to get the second hole drilled before I go get her. If this ends up being like super off or whatever, I'm just gonna end up doing holes on the other side of the shiplap, where I can like push this through and line it up. So, but that just means that I probably won't be able to because my battery will need to charge. I'm surprised it's still going. So we'll see how this second 2x4 goes. I cut the tube down. Smell the truth. Oh, the amount of like adrenaline I got from that pipe fitting is unreal. This is why I love doing projects. I have to fill a nail hole that's on this lip right here that is going to be seen between that and the next board. So I'm going to fill that while it's drying. I am just going to start laying the rest on this side. The thing that is nice about laying the boards from left to right is that I can shoot a nail in this lip and it's going to be covered by the next board. And then I do one on this side. So I only have like 4 holes to fill per board versus 8. So that's the downside of I'm going to have a lot more holes to fill on the boards going this way, but it'll be good. I'm sorry, I was not paying attention to my time, but I'm going to lay the rest on this side while that hole is drying. I'm not going to be painting anymore. The reason I did was because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get in between the boards once they were up, and I'm definitely going to be able to. Like, there's enough of a gap, it'll be totally fine. And the paint that I'd gotten, it was super full. Like, it was kind of oozing out of the top a little bit, so I wanted to get that down so that I could close the can. And then yeah, so in order to get a completely smooth finish, I am taking a brush between the crevices and then rolling over it, and then I'll roll the faces of it all as well. Before I do that though, I am going to go through and fill holes, sand them down. I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to do. I think Brooke fell back asleep. She's not feeling super great, so I'm going to let her sleep as long as she can. But I'm definitely going to be able to like knock a lot of this out right now, and then when the kids go to bed tonight. Okay, because of my awesome camera skills, I didn't show how I did the circle pipe thing, but I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I put some paint on the rim. Okay, I thought Tyler had fallen, but he's fine. I held the shiplap up there, pressed it against the pipe, and it made an imprint of the circle. Although it kind of like, it was bouncing around, so it didn't have like it had like a bunch of circles on it. So I held it up and marked like the top and the bottom of the hole, just so I knew like at least like kind of where the hole was. Hi. Cut it out. Put it up there, and it worked out really well. The only problem is while I was putting in those shiplap, the pipe came disconnected and fell out. Of course, I did have like instant cement that like plumbers use for piping, and I returned it because I was like, I don't need this. So that might have been an amateur mistake, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I shoved, when I got that board on, I shoved those pipes together as hard as I could. I do not think that they're going anywhere, but I might do something like under here to like just make sure that it won't disconnect. all I do is get some on my finger, overfill the holes a little bit, so then I can sand them smooth when they dry. Nah, you'll be okay. Okay, can you reach the hole?
What would it?
Here, stick the pom-pom in it. Oh! These don't take that long to dry, but once they're dry, they're hard and crusty. I just take a little sanding block and sand them down until they are smooth. Okay, so I have partial on both sides, but before I can put those partials on, I need to do these sides first, or at least get them cut down, you know, or whatever. Because walls are janky, I got 8-inch shiplap, and that's what I'm gonna cut down to use on the sides here, and then have mitered edges. The mitered edges are just me being extra bougie. You would not have to do that if you did this project. You could do like corner trim pieces and it would look totally fine and clean and everything. I'm just extra. Morning. That looks insane. I am feeling like 97% better. And so it is going to be a catch-up day because holy Toledo, my house just gets insane when I don't feel good and Shane's not home. Thankfully, my sweet, sweet husband has been kind of keeping up with dishes. But I made pancakes this morning, so we're just gonna really clean the house today. So here is the deal with the side. I bought these 8-inch boards of shiplap because I needed it to cover the whole space. I am gonna be cutting off this tongue because it's gonna be flush against the wall. But most walls are not straight. See, I've got a decent gap there in the middle. I don't even think, like, this board is pretty straight. What I will be doing, cutting this lip off, putting it against the wall like this, and then scribing. I wonder if I could actually fix it. I might be able to like tape it onto here. Hold on. Tape it on like this, and then run this, okay? And then taking a jigsaw and cutting along that line should make it fairly flush with the wall. In order to do this by myself, I'm gonna nail like 1 or 2 nails on the very top of the shiplap to hold it up. And then I'll just pull it down when I'm done. Oh man, love that. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do while the kids are downstairs distracted. I ended up just going out and cutting a piece of wood. So I'm going to tape my pencil to the wood, run the wood along the wall, and then the pencil will draw the line on the board. I am really scared to make these cuts. Like really scared. I think I'm gonna try and cut it a little wide, so that if I need to, I can still trim it down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if I would recommend doing this to anybody who wants to do a fireplace like this. I would probably just, I don't even know. This is where projects get to be really overwhelming and I stress out, but I can't stop. I gotta keep going. So the circular saw that I'm borrowing from my dad is about as wide as the board itself that I need to cut. So I am not going to be able to do that. Instead, I am going to scribe the other side, get that board cut, and then figure out where on the 4 boards that I need cut, the 2 sides and then the 2 ones there, where I need to cut to make the 45-degree angles. And I'm going to just take these out to my dad's. Good afternoon. So I'm out here at my dad's shop. Gonna use this beast of a table saw. He's not here. And so my mom is gonna come help me because this thing just kind of freaks me out. But I have to crank this over so then it'll cut at a 45-degree angle. And then we're just gonna wait for her to get here. If this ends up working out, I will definitely show you the madness behind how I got these measurements. But until then, I'm like 70% confident in maybe 60%. Moment of truth. Okay, well, that will be wrong. And both of these are wrong. So bad news, the cuts are wrong. Good news, I cut everything too long, so I should be able to fix it. I think I know what I did wrong. In the meantime, we're gonna get the TV hung. So the thing with these frame TVs is they're a pain in the neck to hang. Because it comes with 2 brackets. I think no matter what size you get, it's always 2 brackets. So the challenge is making sure that they're level and that they're perfect, right? So they send this little pathetic paper template with, when you get the TV, you pay thousands of dollars for a TV, but this is what you get. And we saved it, thankfully. So we're gonna try and get the TV up. The nice thing about where I put those extra studs is that they all run horizontally. So when we're putting this up, we'll be able to hit studs on all 4 screws, but you really only need to hit studs like in 2 spots. You know what I mean? That's how we had the TV hung. We only hit 2 studs each bracket. But this way I made the supports like 6 inches thick. So we'll hit studs regardless. It'll be sturdy. take your board, put it up against the wall, okay? And you see this white part right here? That's how much too long I cut it. Take a pencil and just go bloop. That's it. And I'm gonna cut on this line at a 45-degree angle, and it should be good. It was so dumb because like the second I put the board up, I realized what I had done and I knew that they would all be wrong. But it's fine. 45-degree, like mitered edges are very hard on like a fixed structure. So it's good. At least I cut everything too long, so it's fixable. And I didn't need to go buy new boards. Got the boards cut, held them up. One side, they're all now a little too short. One side though, I think I'm gonna be able to like wood fill, sand it down and paint it like I did the island. The other side, I think I'm gonna need to go and get a new board. It's just too big of a gap. So, love that. The second option I have would be putting all the boards up. I have like this filler, this space filler that I used when I built the pantry, and then caulk over it. That would be easier as far as like I wouldn't have to go get anything and I wouldn't have to haul it all the way back out to the farm to cut it down. I might just do that because I have it. I have a bunch of that. I don't even remember what it's called, but it's for like jankiness. Frustrating. It looks so good. Like I could cry. I know that sounds so dumb. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I have to redo one board. I'm gonna try and pry it off and re-nail it in. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to show this to you guys. Wood filler is dried. I'm gonna be taking my sander, sanding down the sides to smooth it all out. I might have to put some more wood filler because that first initial on one of the parts where it's really pretty thick of a gap, I just needed wood filler in there to have a back for more wood filler so that I can make it like a corner. This is kind of what I'm talking about. I still need to refill a lot of this because it's at like an angle right now. And I don't mind if it's rounded, but I don't want it at like a jit, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna go back in and fill these. So then it'll look a little bit more like this. Give the illusion of a nice edge. All right, this is probably the gnarliest, most unprofessional thing. But I wanted to show you what I was doing. So I've got this gap right here, and what I'm doing is taking a ton of wood filler and way overfilling it. So then I can come back with my sander and sand along this side and this side, and it should, hypothetically, should make a corner. Now I'm only doing it where the gap is pretty decent, but like here it's not too bad. So I'm probably gonna stop soon because, well, quite honestly, this is really high up and nobody's gonna notice this tiny little gap. It's mostly on this side. So once that's painted, shouldn't be that big of a deal. I wanted to do too much on this side because this looks pretty good, but right there, I'm going to do the same thing and mainly just get it filled. So then, like, see those crevices right there? So get those filled so then they don't show up quite so much when I paint it. So this side is so much better, except for right there. But I'll fix that later. If you just stuck with me through that whole video, kudos to you, because it was super long. As you can see, I did finish the fireplace. These videos are from stories when I first built it about 6 months ago. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe so then you can see how I built this bottom part, inserted the fireplace, and built my custom flip up mantle. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.